The World Trade Center, tower number 1 is on fire. The whole outside of the building was just a huge explosion. And every available ambulance, everything you got to the World Trade Center.
From my vantage point, I didn't see a plane hit the building, but I did see an explosion occur. My God, I can't believe it.
I was working for the fire department in Horry County as a career fireman. Day work at Station 21. Watching the Weather Channel, and that's where we first got the news of the attacks on the World Trade Center. Well, we actually just thought it was a fire in the first tower, and we seen the plane strike the second while we were watching, and knew it was something more serious than just a fire. We were given orders to lock down the station and secure everything and just kind of wait it out. So we spent all day just watching the news, and I don't think we ran any calls that day from the firehouse, but we were I guess on high alert, just watching things unfold on the news. And we got off at 5 that day because we worked 7 to 5 on day work, and just logged in the station logbook that the attacks had happened.
I had just moved to Surfside Beach, 15th Avenue South. I was in my new townhouse on a ladder in the stairwell replacing a light bulb when my wife's son came to me and said, "Should there be planes flying around the World Trade Center?" And I told him, "No, there's restricted airspace, probably doesn't make sense." He said, "Well, a plane just crashed in to the World Trade Center." I was on terminal leave from the Air Force, and when I saw the pictures on the TV, I thought for sure that I was going to be recalled to active duty and have to go back in the Air Force and take care of business. It was a shocking day that I'll never forget.
When 9/11 hit, I worked overnight that night prior to it happening, and I got home around about 7:30, and I lay across the bed, and I fell asleep actually, and I had the TV on to news, CNN. When I heard them talking about the first plane hit the first tower, and I thought it was a joke, and until I seen the second plane hit the tower, and I tried to call my father because he stays in New York, and I couldn't get through, and so it was kind of scary and shocking at the same time.
I was in 10th grade at the time at a vocational school, and I had taken up electronics because my father told me that I should have a backup plan for having a firefighter's job, was basically what I was going for. Then on 9/11, I changed that. I changed my field to protective services because that's what I wanted to do, and I've been doing it ever since.
When 9/11 happened, I was working as a nurse. Television was on the news, a morning show, and I remember seeing the plane hit the towers, and I thought, what just happened? First instinct was, where's my son? Is he okay? We had patients in there. I was getting ready to draw blood, so we kind of worked through those moments. They did lock our building down because everything inside of it was a medical facility. We kept the patients we had. We made sure that they were seen and taken care of. Then we called the other ones and canceled the appointments and rescheduled. We were glued to the TV to make sure everything was okay, worried about those that were going in. There was a lot going on. Very hectic, I guess you'd say.
When 9/11 happened, I was walking across the dispatch floor. I was in disbelief. I thought it was a prank, but it was real.
Just gotten up for work and turned on the news, and the first plane had hit the tower. And being from up north, we had seen some of the smaller planes hit the towers before and hit some of the buildings in New York. So we thought it was just another accident. And then I watched live the second plane come in, and we knew this was a totally different ball game. Then we were actually under attack. My father, he was a deputy fire marshal at the time for the county, and we started getting an equipment list together, and a manpower list together of what we would be able to send if we were going to be mobilized up to New York. Our town actually sent an ambulance up. No fire apparatus were needed. It was crazy. It was surreal, especially when they grounded all the planes. I lived near Philadelphia International Airport and Newcastle Airport, and to not hear the planes going over at a steady clip was for a few days was interesting. Was very angry, very upset.
When 9/11 happened, I was a freshman in college. I was in a marketing class. Professor came in and said that school was being evacuated. We needed to leave and go home and to turn on the news. I got home, I turned on the news. I saw the planes crashing. I was in shock, disbelief. Couldn't understand why anyone would do this.
On 9/11, I was in Baltimore City at a Catholic school, and during that time, we kind of didn't have an idea of what was going on, but what they did with us is put us in the church, and we stayed there till about 2 o'clock when our parents came and picked us up, and it didn't really sink in until I got home that the world had changed forever, that things weren't going to be the same anymore.
September 11th. I remember that morning I got up, I turned the TV on, and they were saying that a plane had crashed into the tower. You could see the tower burning. It's pretty scary that something like that could happen. And then the plane hit the second tower, and my heart sank. I just knew that it was a terrorist attack or we were at war with somebody. Pretty scary moment.
So on 9/11, I was actually in high school doing state testing, and I had a substitute, Mr. Sharp, who was an old retired football coach, and he interrupted our testing to turn on the TV, and when we did so, he just started crying, and we didn't know what was going on. And the last event I remembered was the Oklahoma City bombings before that, so it was actually a moment that I'll never forget because I was old enough to remember it and old enough to understand the reasoning, and he told us about what terrorism was and what our country had to look forward to after that. And that is somewhat of the reason on why I chose to join the military, is because of the fight on terrorism.
I was at work at my console call taking, and I watched it unfold on TV. It was very shocking, and to see the second plane hit was devastating.
I was in algebra class in 8th grade at North Myrtle Beach Middle, and I originally missed the first plane hitting, and I remember witnessing the second plane hitting and kind of being in shock. In 8th grade, you're all of 12, 13 years old. It really isn't hitting home as to what's actually going on, so I guess I was just more in shock than anything else, didn't know what was going on.
When 9/11 happened, I was only 8, and my teachers were crying, and my mom was crying, and everybody was crying, and I couldn't figure out why, so I was really confused. But now that I have a child, and now that I'm an adult and I've seen it unfold, it hits me, finally, after all these years, what actually happened.
I was just getting off of work from overtime at a 911 center in Pennsylvania, and I was actually sleeping, and my wife had woken me up, and I guess my initial reaction was shock, like many people, and my son, who had just been born, I remember, grabbing him and giving him a lot of love, because at that time I knew our lives had changed.
It was a shocking day that I'll never forget.
Couldn't understand why anyone would do this.
The world had changed forever, that things weren't going to be the same anymore.